Did you know only 1 out of every 10 dogs will find a permanent home? The Stray Animal Foundation program estimates that across America there are 70 million cats and dogs, yes, 70 million who are living alone with no home, little food, and obviously no family. I find that number to not only be extremely depressing, but also very relevant, considering that Business Wire recently put out that since the COVID 19 pandemic, animal adoptions dropped by 36%. To me, also, this is very relevant because when I was 14 years old, my family agreed to foster two pit bull boxer mixes. These two dogs had been born from a litter of 17 dogs from three different mothers. They had all been living on the streets together, and they would eat whatever they could find rubber bands, glass, whatever they had. It was very difficult. When we took them in, we had to give them pills to get rid of worms and everything else that they had contracted while they were out. Um, Another thing that we had to do in the beginning was learn to get these dogs to socialize. It wasn't too difficult either. We had them put around our two dogs as well as around different people, and we found that they had no issue uh, getting along with my two other dogs, Lucy and Jack. And socialization is also something that's very important. Socialization is important to a dog's well being and overall health. It's worth mentioning, too, that Sawyer and Lyric had completely different personalities, so how we treat them was also a little different. Sawyer was this wild mutt. Obviously, he's a mutt, but he had this just crazy personality. Very funny, too. Just so hyper. Whereas Lyric, she could be hyper too, but she was definitely a lot more shy, sensitive, and just a little more nervous around different things. This personality difference isn't just something that, oh, we just imagine. This is a real thing. In fact, a study conducted by psychologists Evan McLean and Noah Snyder Macker confirmed that there are personality differences after studying 14,000 different dogs across 101 breeds. This all goes to show that these aren't just some mindless animals. These are animals with their own personalities, their own emotions, everything. And another thing that's worth mentioning as well is that pit bulls get a bad rap as these violent, angry animals that'll just run and attack everything they see. This is all misinformation. It's worth mentioning. Roughly 60% of the time, pit bulls are misidentified, and most of those attacks that you hear aren't even done by pit bulls. And regardless, too, the way a pit bull becomes violent isn't because of some gene that they have. They're a product of abuse or something else. That's just so ridiculous to insinuate that. I mean, it's as bad almost as insinuating that someone's race determines how violent they're going to be. I mean, that's just so wrong. And these two dogs, they weren't anything like they were portrayed. They were sweet, they were kind, they were so acute to our emotions. When we were sad, they'd come up to us. They really were just so aware of everything. And everything that they said about them just being these angry dogs, none of that was true for us. And like I said, there's no genetic connection between them just being violent. And it's worth mentioning, too, that even when there is a situation where there's a violent dog, or not necessarily a violent dog, but just a dog with behavioral problems, I don't think that's any excuse to just dump them on the streets. That's just totally wrong to me. I mean, you think of a child, if a child misbehaves, you don't just dump them on the streets. It's just, overall, I'd say that's just one of the most inhumane things that there is. And that's not the only reason people do that as well. People will get rid of their dog because their boyfriend doesn't like dogs or whatnot. And I just think that's completely ridiculous and just harmful and abusive to these wonderful creatures. And overall, my point is just to give these dogs a chance. Take them into your home, or at least do something to where you can find them a home. Because I think every animal deserves to be loved. Thank you for listening.